The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to Propaganda. It's brought to you with Levi Solicitors. We thank them for their support. You can get 10% off your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Dan, Michael and Rob back in the studio 12 hours on or thereabouts from the Man City affair. Is that what we're going to call it? You've slept on it now. Michael, you're still COVID jab booster side effected. How's things for you?
I feel hungover, which is
normal for you on a morning.
Hey, etc. Yeah, I didn't feel great going to bed or waking up this morning in any respect. Just one of those things where you know, I think you kicked off with a peep show quote last time. But you know, you remember the bad thing when you wake up and you go,
you're still thinking about the bad thing.
Oh God, what happened last night?
We were saying that the last few weeks we've had late goals and been going to bed just full of adrenaline and angst, whereas last night I just got home and sort of self-loathing in a dark room.
So I didn't even have that. My ambivalence from last night just continued into today. What's the point in getting upset about it? I don't really feel anything about it, and that in itself is a bit worrying.
I feel a bit of something.
Is it sad?
It's sad. It is sad, and it's. I think it's a concern for what is to come. I think it did ask some more serious questions. I think.
Do you know what I think we saw last night? The one thing I've resolved from last night is we saw kind of a perfect storm. It was a meeting of two sets of circumstances. It was, number one, the short-term problems of having injuries, but then it met with like the systematic failings of Bielsa's dogma, you know, like the tiny squad, like total control over transfers, that kind of thing. It all came together, didn't it, on one night up against an absolutely unbelievable team.
I think Philip actually asked a good question. He was saying that...
the point of the show, by the way, if you are new to it, Propaganda is where we find out what's been said about Leeds United.
Loads of people did fill in the feedback form, so thank you.
Thanks, yeah. we asked for feedback from
You did well, because I probably wouldn't have bothered. I'd just been like, just piss off.
From our TSB Plus subscribers who give us feedback, and we find out what their opinion was on Leeds, and then we find out what the opposition fans think about it, but might not do that today.
Probably not going to bother. No. There's no need, is there? No. Just to hear some happy Man City fans. But yeah, he was. Philip was making the point that if we swapped managers last night, the results probably exactly the same, because both managers would have probably insisted on playing in their own way, and if we'd have had really good players, we'd have won. And if they'd have had really a load of injuries and a weakened team and not as good players in the first place, they may have lost 7-0.
Well, just looking through the topics of stuff we've received, can we talk about something else? A number of people asked that. Yes, and that's probably going to be a big theme for this show.
Yeah, I put a few of the questions that other people asked to talk about something else are in the Man City section. I thought it was good to move them about. The
Omicron ultras coming out of the woodwork now. Hoping for a shutdown. The golf, I mean, presumably they're on about golfing class rather than the Persian golf.
Indeed.
Are Man City the best team in the world? Financial doping, small positives. Grealish, Roberts, fans, light show. Yeah, pathetic. I mean, did I retweet that from the Square Ball account? Somebody tweeted us saying that, get ready, go take your seats inside the stadium. The live show is about to begin. Like it's the theatre and you're going to go watch.
Was it the light show, maybe?
Oh, maybe.
Possibly. Who knows?
Why have we got a light show? Those lights are functional. They just illuminate the pitch for telly.
No, there was some flashing stuff going on.
Rubbish, don't do it.
Brighton did it the other week, didn't they? It was like a firework display.
Although I do, because we're close to Ellen Road here, aren't we, as well? And I do recall when we got the new lights put in that they were testing them, and ours can do that. I just don't think they're stupid enough to do it.
Fair enough.
Like disco lights.
I think now wouldn't be the time, to be honest. Pre-game
coming against Arsenal.
Get it early.
Hey, Ellen Road's lit up like a Christmas tree.
We're going to have the highlights of the last game on, along with some light show.
Gelhardt and transfers, this or the Championship, Firpo, the 49ers, it's unforgivable, etc., etc. So where do you want to go in on this one? Can we keep it, just do it as quickly as possible? We might not name check you all. Loads of people have got in touch, but why indulge ourselves in so much misery?
Well, this or the Championship is a fair question, I think, because people...
It might not be our decision soon.
Well, yeah. Ross making the point that as a 24-year-old Leeds fan, I don't feel as dreadful about that as I did against Nottingham Forest, Preston and Sheffield Wednesday all those years ago.
Yeah.
True.
That was when it was utterly hopeless, wasn't it? Whereas this one, you can, as much as we were sort of saying there about it being a perfect storm, you can almost push a certain number of fixtures this season just off to one side and go, well, it happens, doesn't it? And kind of in for a penny, in for a pound with Bielsa. So this is what you're going to get now and again.
Yeah, I feel a bit kind of the opposite, though, in that, when we got beat 6-1 at Sheffield Wednesday, we knew Jason Pearce was rubbish. Whereas I like these players and I think they're good. So watching them get beat 7-0 is kind of heartbreaking a little bit. And I don't know. I do think we forget how awful the Championship is for a long part, because while we were there, it's just relentless, isn't it? There's so many games you've got to play. You're constantly playing terrible teams, and yeah, it's a bit awful. But I don't really like getting beat 7-0 either.
Jack asked the question, given the nature of Premier League fans and the death of legacy fans, wouldn't it actually be nice to go back to playing historic clubs like Bolton and Preston rather than sports watching propaganda projects with virgins saying ratio and cry more?
Yeah.
Actually quite looking forward to the prospect of relegation. Or is it just a coping mechanism? It's a coping mechanism.
I was texting...
Because I occasionally do it myself. I think, maybe it's so bad.
I was texting my mate's a Newcastle fan, and they're we were chatting about this clause in Trippier's deal. It looks like it's going to happen potentially, where they're going to maybe pay 25-30 million for it, which is insane because he's 31. But Newcastle tax and all that. And we were just chatting about the clause, like they've got he's going to have a relegation fixed price release clause built into his contract, and it's just another perfect example of footballers as mercenaries. And as part of that conversation, I was saying, well, what's the point in the Premier League? The dice is loaded against you, isn't it? Completely. Anything that upsets like the top clubs as they are now is going to be met with huge resistance. And I said, in the next 6 to 18 months, we'll be taken over by the 49ers. We'll probably become more sterile as an operation. If we stay up, they'll push the button on redeveloping Elland Road. And I said, I quite like it as a shithole.
Yeah.
I just want it all to be like it was. And we've said before, I want it to be like it was when I was growing up and never change.
My stance on it has always been, I don't want us to be richer, I want everyone else poorer. And I think that would make it would make the league a better place. Peebo, in fact, saying it's simple economics. 9 of their starting 11 cost more than Rodrigo. They bought on 3 subs.
Let's not get into that.
They bought on 3 subs who cost more than our starting 11.
It's going to ruin my quiz that I'm bringing to the table. When I was 12, we got promoted. When I was 14, we won the championship. I'd just like to stay in that that mindset forever. It was a long time ago, though. Now
that's been sort of the beautiful thing about Bielsa's first 3 seasons, is that we felt like we've defied like modern football and how it's meant to go. And then this season, we get to return after a season 18 months away, and we've just been hit by a real slap in the face of reality. And that's kind of the more time we've been back, the more kind of sad I've got that we missed promotion and that first season, because like we were just running away from reality, and it was brilliant. But now we've got back, and the crowd is still amazing, the atmosphere is still great, but what we're watching on the pitch is not what we'd been spoiled with, basically.
I think it's within a few days as well that we went to Chelsea. We're so unlucky to not get a point, and it maintains that thing of, well, on our day, set up properly with the way we play, we can still cause problems for these teams, we can still get something. And then we just went there, and it was very clear from within 5 minutes of that game, when we'd basically not left our own half, and it was like, oh god, this is going to be a very long afternoon. But then again, the game against Man City last year, the home game in particular, they did exactly the same to us in the first 10 minutes. They were battering us, and I was kind of thinking, oh god, let's just end this now. I'm quite happy to take like a 2 or 3-0 defeat here, but then we came back into it, and we were able to get a foothold in the game and build from it, and we actually had them on the ropes for quite a bit of that, but it never looked like happening yesterday.
Well, we can address some of the topics that have been sent in to us in one fell swoop with my quiz that I want to put to you now. Let's have a bit of fun with it. There's no point in sitting here moaning about how shit things are. Let's have some fun with it, shall we? So Jeff and Peebo have got in touch about the financial doping aspect of it. We can address that with my quiz. Man City, the best team in the world, ? We can probably address that with my quiz. Thanks to Lorny Jack.
Putting a lot of faith in your quiz.
Right. It's a format you probably won't have heard of before.
Are we not splitting this off into a Man City section then anymore? We haven't got anything.
Well, let's call this the Man City section.
We'll just do one section for this.
Oh, you've got a quiz, haven't you, as well?
I've got a quiz too.
Right, well, let's do the Man City quiz first, and then we'll do your quiz afterwards.
My quiz is also about Man City.
Well, let's call this the Leeds United half. We're nowhere near as good as Man City then, all right? And this addresses the golf. This is talking about something else. Are you ready? Here it comes then. Here we go. Recognise that? Play your cards right. Have you heard of that format?
Yes. Long time ago.
It's where you go.
It was Bruce, wasn't it?
It was. It's where you go higher or lower. So what I've got here is, as you know, I didn't really watch the game last night. I sat and just, put this quiz together, and I looked at the transfer value of every player in Manchester City's starting 11 and on their bench as well. It's frightening. Do you want to know what the total is now of Manchester City's first 11? How much they cost?
I think someone put it on the sheet. Actually, I'm sure someone said it was like 700 million or something. Oh, that might be. I think it was nearly 800 million was the full squad. I think.
Yeah, so you've got about 527 million on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 176 million on the bench at my calculation. It's gone over 700 million as Manchester City's lineup from last night. Plus, I worked out they had 177 million pounds worth of players missing last night as well. So you're talking the thick end of £1 billion, basically. You're at about, what's that, 8, 7... Yeah, you're talking approaching 900 million quid there. So let's call it $1 billion with players. Like, Phil Foden, for example, spoiler alert, didn't cost them anything, but it cost you many, many tens of millions now to...
I mean, they did spend 200 million quid on a training complex, which you have to factor a bit of that into. In fact, I was writing the intro for the new mag this morning, and I was just kind of looking at where they've spent their money, Man City, and you have got to factor in that, we were draining the swimming pool and getting players to bring in packed lunches while Man City were opening a £200 million academy. So even their players who are on the bench, they've not come from nowhere. They've, Oh, God, Dan, turn it off.
I'm not... Oh, God. We're playing the game.
Oh, let's make it quick then, come on.
Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to go through their team, and we're going to go higher or lower. So you're going to get the transfer value of one player, and then you're going to go, is it higher or lower, all right? The prize at the end of it, nothing, is there? There's no prize.
Okay.
It's like the Premier League. You don't get anything just for being there. Right, so we're starting off with Ederson. Do you know how much Ederson was?
About 50?
I assume all City players are about 50 million.
Yeah, you're not actually far wrong. Ederson was actually only a mere £35 million for a goalkeeper, okay? So he's player number one. Next in the lineup, let's go to John Stones. Was he higher or lower than 35 million? What do you reckon?
He was high. He was 50, wasn't he?
Yeah, again, he's in that 45 to 50 ballpark, I reckon.
Absolutely spot on. You're saying higher, yep. Correct. John Stones was higher. He was exactly £50 million, according to the report. So let's go from John Stones. Are you enjoying this?
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
John Stones to Ruben Diaz in the lineup. Are we going higher or lower than £50 million? What are you going to say? Higher or lower?
I'd say higher.
Higher.
He was getting a bit Harry Maguire levels, wasn't he?
Yeah, only bought him last year as well, didn't they? And basically, and the more recent a transfer is, the higher it is.
He was bought using a buyout clause, like a fixed price. Price buyout clause in his contract.
Oh, the Hadi Sacco clause.
Yes, indeed. Higher.
You're going higher. You are correct. It was higher. £62 million. Okay. All right. £62 million. Then we move on to Aymeric Laporte, who played for them. Was Laporte higher or lower than 62 million? What are you going for? Work this one through in your head.
I think he was another that they paid a buyout clause for.
I think you might be about right. Yeah.
I'd go lower just because he's less recent than Diaz.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a ridiculous sum of money as well.
I think he's probably over 50, but a bit less than Diaz.
Absolutely spot on. You've gone lower. He was 57 million. Well done. 3 out of 3 so far.
Snip.
It's going well. Should find this one quite easy. Then Zinchenko.
He was definitely less.
Less than 57 million,
yes.
You're saying? Do you know how much he was?
No. It's the short answer.
£1.7 million.
Oh, that's bargain, that.
Zinchenko, yeah. So you went lower there. Do you think Kevin De Bruyne was higher or lower than £1.7 million? What do you reckon?
Who's better? Who would you rather have?
Who's better value for money?
Well, yeah.
De Bruyne, he kicked it dead hard, didn't he? So you pay a premium for the hard kick.
Did Kevin De Bruyne score more than one last night? He did, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was more than Zinchenko.
You're saying higher than £1.7 million. Correct. He was £55 million. Was Kevin De Bruyne. Right. Oh, this is where it starts to get tough. If you get to the end of this one, you'll find it quite easy because Grealish and Foden at the end. On to Rodri. Was he higher or lower than £55 million?
I wouldn't be surprised if he was higher and it was just mental.
I'm going to go lower, but I don't know.
Come on, have a think about it.
I actually have no idea.
Again, that's more recent, which just makes me think.
That's true. Yeah, they bought De Bruyne several years ago, didn't they? When 50 million quid was a lot of money.
And Rodri was just a backup to Fernandinho, which makes me think he was probably like £70 million. Or
yeah, let's go more. Let's go higher.
You're saying higher?
Higher, not more. Sorry, that's not using the rights.
Get the words right. You're saying higher than £55 million for Rodri. You are correct. It was £62.6 million for Rodri. Right. So from Rodri to Bernardo Silva, are we going higher or lower?
They've had him a while. He'll be lower
than £62.6 million.
I reckon we're going back to the 50 million ballpark there for Silva.
Yeah, they've had him a while, I think, Silva.
You're absolutely right. Correct to say lower. He was €50 million, which I've gone for the lower value because the deal was €50 million rising to 70 million. So there's a lot of change built into that potentially, clauses and whatever. Works out to 43.5 million basic fee. But I wanted to err on the side of caution there. I won't want to overstate the value of these players or anything. So congratulations. All right so far. Well done. So from Bernardo Silva, we go to Riyad Mahrez. You should get that one quite easily, I imagine. Higher or lower? Higher or lower than 43.5?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did they pay like 70 million for him or something?
60 million I've got. So you're correct to say higher. Congratulations.
We're really expecting too much out of Rodrigo, aren't we?
Yeah. And then you just got two left, and you'll get these dead easy because the next one is Jack Grealish. Higher or lower than £60 million?
Yep, higher.
Higher, yeah. He was £100 million. Do you know what? That's more expensive than our entire lineup last night.
Yeah.
And then from Jack Grealish, we go higher or lower with Phil Foden. Was Phil Foden more or less, higher or lower than £100 million?
I'm going to go for a shade lower.
What do you think he was?
£0.
£0.
Nice kitchen for his mum or something like that. That was the old thing people used to say about youth players.
Yeah, congratulations. You got them all absolutely spot on. So on that value, with the conservative valuation of Bernardo Silva, £526.8 million. And I timed it with the end of the music as well. That was skill.
I was going to say professional, but lucky.
I used to do that for a fucking living. The insults.
Don't anymore, do you?
No, I don't. Got laid off, didn't I? But on their bench, we put the music back on for the bench.
No, you're right.
Okay, fine. Nathan Ake, do you know how much he was?
Let's say 50 million. They paid £50 million for every defender.
No, you've overguessed it. It was 41. Fernandinho.
£50 million.
A bit less. He's been there ages.
Yeah, he's been there ages.
What do you
He'll have
reckon?
been 25.
34.
Oh.
Then we got three children with some double-barreled names. Ignore all them. Sterling.
He was loads, wasn't he, at the time?
He was around 50. Well, we're just saying it for everyone, but
49 million.
Again, that was worth more at the time, though, wasn't it?
It was a ridiculous transfer at the time. Stefan, they paid a fee for Stefan.
Stefan Dennis?
Yep. Stefan Everson.
Did I mention him last night? I looked him up at some point during the game. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but he was like £6 million, wasn't he?
Five.
Yep. Yeah. I've never heard of.
And then we've got two more.
Have they still got Scott Carson?
Good question. I don't know.
At one point, they had Scott Carson on the books, didn't they? Bizarrely.
Gabriel Jesus.
Let's say 50 million.
No, you've wildly overestimated. He was a mere snip. He was a Rodrigo. He was £27 million.
Oh, okay.
Scott Carson is still at Man City.
Brilliant.
And just to round it off, then Gundogan.
Oh, I think he was relatively cheap.
He was, yeah,
like 30 or something.
Just £20 million. Not bad value. So yeah, that's 176 million on the bench, and then you factor in all the players who are missing, suspended or whatever. Another 177 million in their squad. So did you enjoy that quiz? Then you got a 100% record. Well done.
That's good, wasn't it?
Your knowledge of football finances, absolutely brilliant.
I think we'd have just guessed 50 million for all of them, apart from Zinchenko and Grealish, probably.
I did actually then, just as a counterpoint to this, work out the value of our squad, and we've got Meslier at 5, Shackleton was free, Ayling at 0.2 million, Llorente 17 million, Firpo 13 million, Dallas 1.5, Tyler Roberts 4, Forshaw 4.5 or thereabouts, Harrison 11, Rafinha 17, Daniel James, we conservatively estimated him at 25, should we say? That brings you out at about 82 million pounds.
Which is still a lot. And I'm still not having it that we should have lost 7-0.
And then I feel like we can. I'm finished with our bench.
Oh, sorry.
Greenwood, let's say million. Drama million. Jenkins and Creswell free. Gelhardt million. Somerville 1.5. McCarron was about $250,000. Click 1.5. Clarkson 1.5. Under £8 million worth of talent basically there on the bench. So you're bringing the whole thing in at under a Grealish.
Yeah, I'm still not having it. Still should have lost 7-0.
And that's the end of my quiz. I even prepared like an end stab. You see,
that is nice.
Do you like that?
Yeah. Yeah, a few people agreeing with me, basically saying that you can't. Wisconsin, Todd, Joe, Martin.
Back at the misery now.
All essentially saying, well, yeah, we had enough fun there, haven't we? I think that's enough. Although well done on picking some 80 entertainers who haven't been accused of anything, so that was good. Managed to at least get through that. Yeah, just saying, we can't lose 7-0. It's not acceptable. We weren't playing with actual children in the game. There were 11 professional footballers out there
against 11 other professional footballers
who should be able to organise themselves to not lose 7-0.
But it's not their job to organise themselves, is it? It's the manager's job to organise themselves.
Bielsa out, you say?
That's exactly what you said, Michael.
Yeah, I mean that. I have seen it.
Well, I was going to say, just on that, let me ask a question about it, because I don't think anybody in their right mind would necessitate booting him out now at all. But do you think last night, and I guess this is a question we can pose to Phil Hay as well, because he's generally quite sensible and informed, do you think it's exposed the absolute limitation of his method, and do you think it confirmed last night that this will be his last season?
It's felt for a while like it's probably his last season, I would say. But that's not really based on anything.
I mean, every season sort of feels like his last season.
Thanks, Michael.
Like every season feels like his last season, doesn't it? Because of just the way he works. And I think, waking up the morning after a 7-0 defeat, I was very much like, we need to sign loads of players in January, and Bielsa will probably go in the summer, but we don't know, do we? I mean, it was interesting before the game, Phil Hay on his Athletic web chat thing said that Calvin Phillips' injury has sort of convinced the club that they really need to buy someone in January. But then Bielsa comes out after the game and says, the same things, if it depends on fitness and whether they're better than what we've got. But then, I mean, with Shackleton getting injured yesterday as well, he's getting to the point where the club needs to be, we really need someone.
I think they're nervous. I think they must be feeling it.
But also, he's talking about we need to sign players better than what we've got, but we're not necessarily trying to sign someone that's better than Rafinha. Maybe we just need someone that's better than Jamie Shackleton. Or Jack Jenkins or someone like that. We don't have to sign a star striker or someone who's going to be the best player in our team. But
this is what I got into the argument with Moscow about the other week, but didn't articulate it particularly well because I didn't have the words available to my brain that you've just put forward there, Rob. But that's probably what I was getting. That's at the crux of what I was getting at. We just need a few better players.
But I think January might give us signs about what Bielsa is going to do in the summer, because if he's absolutely adamant that he only wants players that are better than our starting 11, but the club are like, no, you need to have these players, that's maybe where friction occurs. Or maybe Bielsa accepts that the club has done so much to keep him happy in what he wants that maybe he does have to give on something, but I don't know.
I feel like there's still chance for redemption here because we play Arsenal in a few days.
If we beat Arsenal, it'll be great, won't it?
If we beat Arsenal, it's kind of fine. Like, every team in the bottom half will go to Man City and lose. I know someone will say, oh, well, actually, Brentford drew there or something. There'll be some example of a result otherwise, but generally speaking, every single team will, home and away, lose to Man City just because that's the way it is. And at the end of the season, losing 7-0 doesn't make a vast difference to losing 2-0. Like,
it's only 3 points, isn't it?
It still is. I know goal difference can count, but it rarely does, truthfully, in relegation battles. It's generally speaking, it makes no difference at all. So if Bielsa's methods win us another game, but loses this one, does it matter? I don't know. It feels like it sort of does, but maybe it's just the way it looks because at 7-0 is so hard to take. And I mean, we've seen it last year as well with the spanking we got at Man U. And truthfully, the spanking we could have had in the Liverpool game this year as well, where we sort of got away with it, I think, a bit that home game, because they had a lot of chances in that. And that could have turned ugly in the same way this one did. Now, there have been signs of this before, but then we've always come out the game after and played all right. So, I don't know. I feel like it probably has run its course this season, at the end of this season, but I feel like sacking him prematurely would be a disaster for us because this squad is so set up to play with his methods. I feel like anyone else coming in would be like inheriting something that they can't do anything with.
And his methods, they work to hopefully a good enough extent to keep us in this division. Yeah. And now we've all reset our sights on just staying up. Hopefully, it should be enough because, as I've said loads of times in recent weeks, it's not very good for the Premier League. We just need to get some runs on the board and quickly. And I know Liverpool is a massive, but you look at the fixtures coming up and Arsenal, you look at that, we could get something from that game. Liverpool, you go, yeah, fine, probably not. But But then after that, there's some achievable games. We just need some bodies back and some runs on the board.
I do think as well that the more adversity there is, the more Bielsa kind of enjoys it and is probably more inclined to stay again. I don't know. But yeah, he likes the challenge, doesn't he? And I think he almost perversely likes how thin a squad he can cope with. But
it's that we can't cope with.
Yeah, exactly.
Thin squad.
Yeah, it's stressful this season, and it has been throughout. If you look at the form table, we're still all right. We're still like pretty much in the middle of it, I think, because it's even after a couple of defeats, we're not playing terribly. And I think the Chelsea game, if we got a point out of that, it probably changes how we view this as well, because you can go, well, a point from those two games, better than you could have hoped for, truthfully. So never mind about the 7-0. But we didn't, did we?
No.
The Square Ball Podcast.